like AB Manitoba, and increasing coordination of campaigns, which we know we're actually in the process of doing right now with the BIAN coordinating, local coordinating committee meetings, and creating and sharing up-to-date educational materials. We've heard from our local chapters that we want educational material and guidance on areas such as prop, instructors training, mass work and step-by-step organizing, and social investigation. We've learned that we want more educational discussions on the ideological aspects of our work, like comprehensive understandings of the 3 basic problems in the Philippines, and other isms like socialism, capitalism, postmodernism, dialectical and historical materialism, and others. We've identified EDs on the national situationers, solidarity work, questions on national minorities, and self-determination as areas where we can continue to grow and consolidate, and especially areas such as wellness and mental health. We've also identified that organization happens through like membership forms and people coming to us. So this is one area where we can actually improve by going out and integrating with the masses. We've also done socials, community outreach programs, AOM meetings. So that's, agitate, organize, mobilize meetings where AOM teams are present. Executive committees of local chapters and general meetings vary in frequency, so we can continue to meet more frequently. So our more frequent meetings means they'll be shorter, which I think is nice for everyone. And we can continue to grow our alliance work with Filipino student organizations and our solidarity work with non-Filipino orgs. And we use demonstrations and protests to propagate our message publicly. On an organizational level, we have relationships with Phil organizations like Migrante Canada, Bayan Canada, and Gabriela. We have relationships with non-national democratic Filipino organizations like Filipino student associations, Student Christian Movement, and other Filipino student associations, and Filipino cultural organizations. And we have international solidarity through our work with PYM, ILPS, the Tamil Freedom Coalition, and the York Federation of Students. We've gotten feedback for Anagbayan Canada, which our new National Executive Committee that will be elected later today will put into practice. So we recognize that the strength of the national is very crucial to the development of local chapters across the country. And we plan to expand into the East Coast, into the prairies, and into the territories. We plan to build a more powerful recruitment plan and recognize that committees can do follow-ups with contacts and provide direct support for the growth of local chapters. We will program and recruit new members and do more frequent national educational discussions and investigate the creation of a national propaganda committee. So we want to thank everyone for providing those report backs from local chapters because that helps inform the GPOA and the national work. So before we do a cultural presentation, we'd like to ask if there's any questions from the audience, from our general members, from us. Any questions from our general membership about the synthesis of what we have shared here today on our general, as we start our General Assembly.
Where? You have a question? Oh. No, that's photos.
Yeah. So if anyone has a question, Miguel is going to get a mic out so we can have a discussion.
check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Two. Check, check, da, 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 da. That's good? Okay, cool. All right, don't mind me. Yeah, if you want to come up and share any thoughts or whatever. Feelings, there's a microphone here.
Feedback. Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. We all know each other, right?
You know, it's good.
You don't have to face us. Just everyone, we're all together.
Okay, so I'm from the East Coast originally. Like, I moved from PEI just a month ago to Montreal. And so I'm very new to Anagbayan as an organization. And in the East Coast, like, I guess I'm just wondering, since I didn't see any sort of progressive Filipino organization there, and the Filipinos that I do know are, like, they're not organized, but they're very, like, culturally insulated, and I don't have, like, a way into that sort of community. I'm wondering, like, what is the best sort of trajectory to organizing Filipinos on the East Coast? Like, would it be through reaching out to potential, like, student organizations of Filipinos, or like through migrant workers, or is there like a completely, or do we have to do like a whole assessment of what the Filipino situation is like in the East Coast? Like, is that information out there? Because like I guess I really don't know. Thoughts?
Do you want to come to the mic?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, especially because, as we all know throughout all of this, is that our job is to expand as well as consolidate ourselves. So we're always thinking about, reaching further, having a presence elsewhere. And if any of you attended the step-by-step organizing workshop yesterday, you will know about like the things that we try to do and try to set a foundation for when we're actually embarking on organizing and starting a group. And what you said is exactly right. Like, we need to know the field, right? We need to know the conditions and each, in the East Coast, what it's like for Filipinos there. A big part of that is doing our social investigation and class analysis into what Filipinos' lives are like within that area. So it's definitely, I feel like, next time we have a Congress, hopefully there will be some East Coast representation. And it will be due to that kind of hard work that would have been happening, right? All of the setting up after you've done your social investigation, then you're like making your contacts, you're making your alliances, you're building your relationships. And we know that there are probably Filipino progressive youth there, so it's about like making sure we're making those connections also for, I guess, all of us at Anagbayan Canada, seeing what's out there too. I don't know if that really answered all of the question.
Can I also comment? I think concretely, once you've made contacts, you can create an organizing group, an organizing chapter organizing committee, like 3 people. Just get some people who are interested in progressive Filipino issues, and then as long as you're connected with AB Canada, we can guide you in the creation of a chapter building, right? So it takes time to build chapters, we all recognize that. So the purpose of National is for us to help support that organizational development of yours, also provide the ideological and educational guidance on what our lines are, and then also politically, like with the campaigns, we can support in what is actually capable in your organizing group. So That's practically how you would create a chapter in the East Coast.
And then one little thing just to add, and I said it in the step-by-step workshop, but the reality is when you're, when because we all ask the question, like, where are like Filipino youth, or who are they, or what are they like? The reality is we do have to be quite uncomfortable to get out there and interact with Filipino youth, because if we're comfortable, we're just hanging out with our friends, right? But to expand our organization means to actually go out there and talk to someone new who you might not be able to expect how they'll respond or what they're like. But that is a difficult, a very difficult like first step of getting out there, right? Like actually expanding and understanding your community, yeah, because sometimes like I'll ask like, oh, like where are the Filipinos that I can organize? Does someone have the answer? Can I like Google the stats to find out like which space I need to go to get that? Sometimes I just have to actually like hop on a bus and then like look around, and then actually talk to someone from the certain area, and then I can make a contact, and then you start building up on all the organizational steps afterwards. But it really does come down in a lot of ways to just literally talking to people in your neighborhood as the very first step.
Awesome. So thank you for the question. I think we only had time for one. We're a bit behind schedule. So in terms of, sorry, we are really on Filipino time now. Next thing we're going to be doing is have a cultural presentation by Miguel. You can introduce afterwards. Then we'll have a general program of action. We have a GPOA from 2022 hanggang 2024. So we'll review that thoroughly, just so we're all on the same page of what our program of action is. Then we'll be going over chapter, actually we'll be going over the bylaws. We have bylaws that were sent to all chapters to review and provide amendments for. So we'll discuss amendments and approve or deny. And then there will be some more solidarity messages, and then elections for the new National Executive Committee of Anagbayan Canada. So that's sort of briefly our agenda. So I'll let Miguel go now. I'll stop talking.
Real quick, so this is a short film I'm currently working on. It is not done by any means, but I just wanted to share it here because I'm very invigorated by this Congress. And part of the whole point of this is just like making cultural work is just reiterating the intentions, the goals, the ideas that we have, the pursuits that we have as organizations and activists. And I think nothing that I'm saying in this is new. But it's just about how you can creatively say it again so that other people can, get it better. Oh, right. I'm Miguel. I'm from Anagbayan, BC, all the way on the west coast. I'm also an artist, I guess. I don't dance or make films, but I got this opportunity to make a film, and I'm using it to make prop. So here we go, I guess. Or not. Hello?
An archipelago of 7,000 islands in the South Pacific, so beautiful, so rich in natural resources, it became perpetual spoils of war.
I don't know how it was, but it came. That there was nothing left for us to do but to take them all and to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize them as our fellow men for whom Christ also died. And then I went to bed and went to sleep and slept soundly. And the next morning, I sent for the chief engineer of the War Department, our map maker. I told him to put the Philippines on the map of the United States. And there they are, and there they will stay while I am president.
Dictator stands afloat, says there's nothing to see. But he's so wrong, so wrong. Traitorous coward, you're wrong. There's a virus that's plaguing our country. We call them the ruling elite. They sell out the people for money. To the U.S. they'll bend on their knee. The motto goes, profit over people, profit over people. The objective is to keep the waste, to profit off the people, profit over people, profit over people. The objective is to keep the waste, to profit off the people. Wrong, so wrong. Traitorous coward, you're wrong. Profit over people, profit over people. The objective is to keep the waste, to profit off the people, profit over people, profit over people. The objective is to keep the waste, to profit off the people.
Ano yun? For harvest na? Yung anong parang? Ano, tinataniman pa lang?
It's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's a magic number. Thieves, they rob us of our land, our sustenance. They sell us out, establish these systems like business. Burial ground, a pile of refuse, military base. Contrary to the case, the plundering United States. To my home, they are thieves. How does it feel to walk around with a hole in your chest? All the innocence spilling out, all the sediment of regrets. Every bit of your treasured love flowing against your will. You have nothing to fear but everything. You have everything to lose, but still you sing. 'Cause it's always a battle. It's always a battle.
It's also important for our democracy that people do not have a notion of democracy that is constricted to shades of conservative thinking or just a choice between conservative and liberal thinking.
There's a spectre that haunts me, a spectre that haunts my country, clawing and gnawing away at the seams, protracted and acted by my people.
There are 38 million Filipinos who live in the countryside, but only 1 million work their own land. The sugar worker bites into a stick of cane. The land used to be ours, she says, spitting out the sugar pulp. Now it's not.
agitate, organize, and recognize. We must fight, agitate, organize, and recognize. We must fight, agitate, organize, and recognize. We must fight, agitate, organize, recognize. We must fight.
Kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa?
Miguel. Oh, sorry.
Check.
I just want to provide a comment and just say, like, the visceral reactions of how your visual propaganda for the people spoke to the loss of our land, our culture, our identities, and just like how, if not who, if not us, then who, right? It is about our movement, our people, fighting for our own liberation. And so thank you for the work that you do for our people.
Thank you. I guess just real quick. I actually used a lot of footage from other documentaries and other films and other pieces from Filipino artists, and I used a lot of lyrics that weren't my own. So the whole point of like cultural work isn't like I'm trying to, inflate my ego or like just like make it self-serving, right? But it's about reiterating the voices of the masses all the time, and you carry that wherever you go. And I feel like for a lot of us here who do create things, who are artists, none of this is new, but it's about strengthening it, right? And yeah, I'm glad it resonates, and I hope that we all carry that goal of making sure it resonates with the masses. Yeah, thanks again.
I also want to explain the rest of our agenda today. I realized we didn't explain what we're doing this afternoon. And General Assembly I think, is a new thing to many of us here today. So the purpose of a General Assembly is to report on our previous work, assess our previous work, identify our strengths and weaknesses, which is what Isa shared earlier. And from there, based off of those reports, we gathered reports from all the local chapters. Based off of those, the NEC, the National Executive Committee, and the Congress Preparatory Committee drafted something called a General Program of Action, or GPOA. And we'll go into that. That's basically our plan for what we're going to do for the next 2 years. And after the GPOA is presented, we'll have caucuses, so you'll have discussion groups, and start discussing any feedback on the program. If you have any resolutions to propose, for example, something specific that you want Anagbayan Canada to implement, those will be discussed in your caucuses and then presented, and we'll unite on them. After the GPOA, we'll also go through our bylaws. Our bylaws is organizational matters of how we elect the leadership, how we make decisions, our structures, And there's some amendments or changes made to them, so we have to approve those as the whole General Assembly of Anagbayan Canada. And then after that, we'll have nominations of National Executive Committee officers. And then we'll take, after they are elected, they'll be voted on and everything. After they are elected, we'll do the Anagbayan Pledge, and then we'll close for the Congress. So basically, reports and assessments, our plans for upcoming years, and the new NEC.
Okay, so we're gonna do basa talakay of this GPOA, which means we're gonna be reading it out loud so we can all comprehensively understand. Okay, so lumalakas, lumalawak, lumalaban, Anakbayan. This is our GPOA for 2022 to 2024, draft, approved upon this conversation. So expand boldly, fight imperialism, oust the U.S. Duterte regime, magpalawak, labanan ng imperialismo, ibagsak ang rahimeng U.S. Duterte. The GPOA is one of the most important documents of our organization. This document will serve as a platform as we implement our campaigns in this period and will guide all of our other activities. Each section will thoroughly state our goals for each facet of our organizing and how we can strategically implement our progressiveness to arouse, organize, and mobilize across Canada. It will serve as our guideline to ensure that we are fulfilling the mandate of Anagbayan. The GPOA will be discussed and approved by this Assembly at this Congress. Background. Anagbayan Canada approved a 2019 to 2021 GPOA at the Assembly in 2019, but has not held the National Congress since 2016, so we have not united on a national GPOA. Our activities during the next period will follow the ND political and organizational line. Our principal goal is to strengthen the AB national formation, to effectively lead and build local chapters, and to support the future leaders of our mass organizations. This GPOA has been developed in the context of 4 major ongoing issues: resisting U.S. imperialism, the U.S. puppet government in the Philippines, and state terror and fascism. Number 2, struggle against the criminalization and red tagging of human rights defenders and activists. 3, expose and struggle against the worsening social and economic crisis. 4, deepen our integration with the toiling Filipino masses. Resist U.S. imperialism, the U.S. puppet bureaucrat capitalist government in the Philippines, and state terror and fascism. Anagbayan Canada recognized the clear links between the current fascist U.S. Duterte regime and the previous puppet presidents who have been the lapdogs of U.S. imperialism. As both BBM, Bongbong Marcos, and Sara Duterte, inheritors of wealth stolen from the people through bureaucrat capitalism, run for office in the approaching 2022 election, we must stand resolute in our critique of both individual, corrupt capitalists, family dynasties who have exploited the masses for generations, and the abuses inherent to the bureaucrat capitalist system. Under Duterte, the people have faced corruption, warrantless arrests, and EJKs. Their medical needs under the pandemic have been met with military quarantines and callous disregard of the financial crisis facing workers and peasants. Youth and student activists have been especially targeted by the Anti-Terrorism Act and the growing anti-left propaganda war waged by the fascist government. The U.S. Duterte government has committed a historic number of human rights abuses to suppress political dissent and advance the interests of profit-making imperialists. The de facto martial law today in the Philippines may well lead to formal martial law again, especially under a Marcos Duterte slate after the 2022 election. The PNP and AFP, formed by the U.S. colonial government in the early 20th century, remains the enforcers of the interests of private corporations, rich landlords, and comprador bourgeoisie. The bureaucrat capitalist system, which upholds the interests of U.S. imperialism in the Philippines, will remain after the election. No matter who becomes president, our struggle continues until victory. So I will let someone else speak.
My turn. Next point. Struggle against the criminalization and red tagging of human rights defenders and activists. The Duterte government has employed a whole-of-nation approach to suppress dissent. This was embodied by the formation of the NTF-LCAC, or National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, the terror tagging machinery that is engorged by state funding. Human rights defenders, land defenders, activists, and workers and peasants are all met by state terror when they speak up about their rights. From the targeting of Lumad schools, to the declared martial law in Mindanao, to the 2020 passage of the ATA, Duterte has shown a complete disregard for the civil liberties of the Filipino people. Indigenous people in the Philippines have been labeled as terrorists for defending their ancestral territories from mining and logging exploitation. Youth activists have been jailed on trumped-up charges. Some youth have been turned into the police by their own families, a consequence of the prevalent anti-left propaganda funded by the U.S. Duterte regime and especially the Philippine National Police, PNP, and Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP. This crackdown comes from the U.S. puppet government's fear of the power of the Filipino people. Despite the dangerous conditions in the Philippines, the people continue to arouse, organize, and mobilize because the contradiction between the interests of the broad masses of the Filipino people and the interests of the comprador bourgeoisie and big landlord classes are only heightening. Our next point is critique, expose, and struggle against the worsening social and economic crisis. So today, the contradiction between the classes is ever amplifying. Capitalism, or monopoly capitalism, has resulted in a crisis in production and social issues. There's massive poverty in the Philippines. Workers face reduced hours and stagnant wages, mass unemployment, no financial relief, and increased risk of COVID-19 exposure. Peasants continue to toil in backwards conditions for the profit of big landlord and foreign agribusiness. Migrant workers are exploited by recruiters, by the Philippine government, and by host countries like Canada. Social issues emerge from these economic conditions, including mental health issues, family separation, patriarchal exploitation of peasant and worker women, racist violence against Filipinos in the diaspora, transphobic and homophobic violence against LGBTQ people in the Philippines and abroad, and ableism through the cutting of health care and disability support funds. So these issues compel us to unite with the working classes of the Filipino people and of all people in Canada and around the world to struggle for a new mode of production, a socialist mode of production. We struggle for a national democratic society where Filipinos are not forced to emigrate to survive and where the diversity of the Filipino people is respected. Our last point is deepen our integration with the toiling Filipino masses with an exclamation point. Deepen our integration with the toiling Filipino masses. Anagbayan Canada must rekindle its class character as a youth worker organization in recognition of our currently predominantly petty bourgeois membership. Local chapters must deepen our integration with the Filipino masses, particularly youth workers and students in workplaces, campuses, and local communities. We must go where the masses are and organize geographically in locations where there are high concentrations of Filipinos. We must conduct social investigation and class analysis among the Filipino working class to understand their needs and interests and burning issues. We must act in accordance with the principle that youth are the leaders of the revolution today and tomorrow, and that the working class is the leadership of the People's Democratic Revolution in the Philippines.
So I will be reading our educational program. It's under Propaganda and Political Education. Our first line is to continue to develop and strengthen a national propaganda committee under the leadership of the Anagbayan Canada Propaganda Officer. The responsibility of the committee will be to release timely propaganda material, including statements, social media graphics, website content, and other innovative visual, audio, and written cultural prop. To develop a shared calendar to systematize propaganda based on red letter days and other youth and student-specific days, and create and lead the Anagbayan National Propaganda Committee. We also will continue to develop and strengthen a national education committee under the leadership of the SecGen and Vice Chair, which will distribute updated, consistent educational materials to local chapters and respond to the educational needs of local chapters. We will coordinate Philippines exposure trips and help facilitate local exposures or basic mass integrations to ensure that members understand and learn from the masses. So we will study, through educational discussions, situationers, and mass integrations, issues related to the rights and welfare of local Filipino youth workers. We will support and, where appropriate, participate in local worker campaigns like minimum wage campaigns run by other organizations like unions. Regularly assess rights and welfare activities conducted with Filipino youth workers. Systematize SI, social investigation, to determine campaigns to wage. How to sum up social investigation to determine campaigns. Launch and conduct pro-people campaigns that connect youth to the masses. Next, ensure all chapters have access to, are equipped and trained to deliver PADEPA studies, our ED curriculum on an ongoing basis. So create a calendar to deliver regular national EDs based on the priorities and assessments of local chapters, identified through mid and end year reports and coordinating committee meetings. Continue to develop facilitator guides and materials based on, I'm not going to read all of these, but the PADEPA curriculum. Encourage participation in international EDs, both online and in person, such as those hosted by LPS or integrations in the Netherlands and other areas. Continue to study, remain a breadth and, what does a breadth mean? And deepen our understanding of specific issues of Filipino youth and students in the Philippines, and broader special studies through ongoing sharing of studies, readings, and other EDs. So encourage the development of local reading and educational groups, and build and distribute a library of supplementary materials for further study. And we will develop and distribute a national newsletter, which will rely on the National Propaganda Committee to distribute regular communications to local chapters. This will provide regular political updates on the situation in the Philippines and in Canada and on other national liberation struggles. It will provide regular organizational updates on Anagbayan Canada and Anagbayan Philippines, and it will update local chapters on ongoing campaigns and organization-to-organization communications between AB Canada and other orgs.
Campaigns and mass struggle. Struggle resolutely against the U.S. Duterte regime and the Marcos Duterte dynasties into the 2022 Philippine election. This includes advance the calls to oust Duterte, Wakasana, and no to Marcos Duterte as the primary campaigns, denounce the increasing attacks by the regime on the National Democratic Movement overseas, assess the conditions and calls to action of Bayan following the election, continue to struggle against U.S. imperialism, bureaucrat capitalism, and the semi-feudal and semi-colonial society. Conduct a mass campaign on the rights and welfare of youth workers, and support delivery of local campaigns to connect youth to Philippines-based struggles. Conduct a national social investigation and class analysis on youth workers across Canada. So this SICA will include developing a national campaign committee to plan and deliver a nationwide SICA, facilitate educational discussions on SICA and mass work with campaign committee and with partner organizations to build leadership, political education, and mobilization. The campaign will also include identifying and collaborating with national Filipino youth organizations and/or workers and union groups waging other existing worker campaigns, such as minimum wage or status campaigns. Local chapters will identify methods of social investigation and outreach. National and local chapters will work together to conduct outreach and in-person surveys and interviews as examples. Continue to build existing relationships with national Filipino youth organizations through this campaign to continue to mobilize a united front and integrate with the masses, so including organizations such as PhilCasa. Collaborate with the research institution and or students to research conditions and employment of Filipino youth workers. Identify the major industries of Filipino youth workers through local chapters and carry out in-person outreach in workplaces. The National Campaign Committee and the NAC will assess, summarize, and disseminate the National Youth Workers SICA. So the NEC and the National Campaign Committee will develop a campaign plan based on the SICA to address the priorities and issues of Filipino youth workers across Canada. This will affirm the link between the struggles of Filipino youth workers with Philippines-based basic problems, conditions, and the National Democratic Movement. Will facilitate people-to-people solidarity with youth workers in the Philippines, identify and develop possibilities for recruitment of new members and growth, support local chapters in designing and delivering mass campaigns on youth workers' issues. Defend Negros Island will be another campaign. So this will include studying the conditions of Negros Island and ongoing national democratic struggle. In a spirit of friendship and alliance building, contribute financial, political, and moral support to national democratic organizations on Negros Island. Free all political prisoners. So support movements in solidarity with Filipino political prisoners, such as iChirp Canada. Support Filipino political prisoner organizations, such as Kapatid. Support financially, morally, and politically the struggle of individual political prisoners and of political prisoner collectives.
And for alliance building, build relationships with non-national democratic Filipino organizations, which includes conducting SICA and contributing to a national database of alliance organizations. Facilitate contact between local chapters and Filipino organizations, and build relationships with Filipino cultural organizations and student associations. As well, continue to support the campaigns and activities of national democratic mass organizations in Canada, including Migrante and Gabriela. Support and, when appropriate, participate in the activities and campaigns of local Migrante and Gabriela chapters. Provide collaborative support if capacity allows to support the growth and development of Migrante and Gabriela chapters locally, and participate actively and enthusiastically in Bayan local campaign coordinating committee meetings to ensure the growth and development of the Bayan Alliance in Canada. As well, continue to support the campaigns and activities of national democratic mass organizations in the Philippines. Building organization-to-organization relations with youth and other ND organizations in the Philippines. Follow the propaganda outlets such as social media, newsletters, etc., of national democratic organizations in the Philippines. In the field of international solidarity work, gather international support for the National Democratic Revolution, create people-to-people and organization-to-organization links with local individuals and organizations, and propagate the line of national democracy through mass work and propaganda. As well, create alliances with and among working-class people of Canada and around the world, support and participate in worker campaigns and alliances, and create local alliances with other worker and or youth organizations where appropriate. Support and take part in solidarity alliances, support and work with human rights-focused alliances such as iChirp, the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, and other solidarity formations for the Philippines, such as CPS, Canada-Philippines Solidarity. Join and participate actively in anti-imperialist and or worker alliances, such as ILPS, IWA, and IMA. Build solidarity relationships with other national liberation struggles. Find points of unity to support campaigns across national liberation struggles. Build relationships of friendship and solidarity with other national liberation organizations, such as the Palestinian Youth Movement, and study international solidarity work principles. And finally, support the development of national liberation struggles among and or by other oppressed peoples. Learn about other oppressed peoples locally through mass work, and build relations of solidarity with other oppressed people.
Organizational development. Support local chapters in their expansion and consolidation and develop new organizations. Hey, we had that question. 1, increase our membership by 200%. Woo! A, current total membership 149, goal 447. Get a bigger venue. 2, expand Anagbayan Canada through the creation of local chapters, specifically in the prairies where there are large concentrations of Filipino migrants. 3, expand Anagbayan Canada through the creation of new local chapters where capacity is advanced, i.e. split into 2 or more chapters to support more localized work. 4, develop and keep up to date a national database of chapters, members, allied organizations, and international solidarity relationships. Ensure regular assessment to identify areas of support and guidance for chapters. 1. Gather chapter reports on a mid and end year basis. 2. Anagbayan Canada NEC to promptly consolidate and summarize chapter reports. Issue the summary to all chapters. 3. NEC to develop as-needed plans to support local chapters in accordance with this GPOA and changing conditions. Next point is build national unity through systematic communication. 1. Ensure regular communication among local chapters through regular meetings of the NEC and coordinating committee. 2. Use a national newsletter developed by the Propaganda Committee to promote organizational unity. 3. Plan national conferences, in person and online, based on the interests and needs of local chapters to support the development of inter-chapter relations and advance local work.
Finance. Continue self-sustaining fundraising and finance work. Raise funds and capacity to support a full-time organizer. Collect chapter dues, $50 per chapter annually. Apply for grants. Regularly host fundraising events. Start a finance campaign to support youth and student orgs in the Philippines. Number 1, use mass campaigns to build relationships with youth national democratic organizations in the Philippines and contribute financially to their struggle. Number 2, use fundraising events and campaigns to raise consciousness about the conditions in the Philippines among Anagbayan Canada members and the broad public. Yeah.
How will Anagbayan Canada implement these points? On what dates will we mobilize, and whose task will it be, which chapters, etc.? Concretely, how will we implement this plan? And that will be disseminated to local chapters, and local chapters should also create your own implementation plan. How will you implement this program for the next 2 years? What dates will you mobilize, and who will do these things? So, ayun. Oh, turn on the light. Salamat. Meron bang dagdag? Questions? Feedback? Yeah. Come back at 2:35. 2:35.
copy of the bylaw amendments and were asked to make suggestions to changing the amendments for AB Canada. How do I explain the bylaws?
The bylaws are additional rules and policies for our organization, which particularize the Anagbayan Philippines Constitution. So our constitution is the same as the Constitution of Anagbayan Philippines, but Anagbayan Canada, as an international chapter, also has bylaws. So we don't, here in AB Canada, of course, we can't vote to change anything in the Constitution, but in our General Assembly, we unite on any changes to the bylaws that apply to our national chapter.
And we really can't move forward until we get votes from people in this room regarding the amendments. So this will require active participation and listening. Thank you. Yeah, bylaws! Woo! You want to go ahead? Or? We will get to the bylaws. Okay, so we're hiding some of the bylaws regarding, grammatical changes because they're minor. Can you click present, Miguel? Thank you. Okay, first bylaw, please. So the original bylaw of 6.4A, hold regular meetings at least once a year, okay? The proposed amendment is to move under meeting requirements of NEC. Anagbayan Ottawa suggested this amendment. As Anagbayan Ottawa, we suggested that we should have more than one meeting a year. Is that okay? Do we agree? Please put your hand up if you agree. Should we meet more than once a year? And this is an amendment.
We don't have a vote counter. Can we appoint someone to count votes?
Kyra? Thank you, Kyra.
We don't even have attendance numbers. We don't know how many people are in. So we can't count votes. Okay. Dude. Yes. Yes. I want someone non-AB to do it, please. Can you do it? Thanks. Okay. Okay. To clarify. Apologies. We jumped right into it, but we definitely should not have jumped right into it. We're running hot. So what's going to happen? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna go. What's going to happen is you're going to present a bylaw. There's going to be the original text of the bylaw, the proposed amendment, and the chapter that proposed it and sort of what the amendment is all about. We are going to vote each individual member of Anagbayan Canada. So if you are a member of either an Anagbayan chapter or of Sulong, an affiliate, you have the right to vote. So when we vote, we will explain the amendment. We'll ask people to put their hands up if they're in favor. Amendments pass if 50% of the membership plus one person approves. So raise your hand if you're an Anagbayan member. All right, can we keep them up and can we count them? Ryan's gonna count because you're voting. Yeah, so you two? Okay.
I also removed the individual ones. Anyway.
Oh, I vote also. Yeah, is there a way we can help Okay, okay. Each,
Yes, yes. Okay.
I think that's cute. Let's do it.
1. Go.
5.
34.
Are there any Anagbayan Canada members who did not say a number?
37.
Okay, there are 37 voting members in this General Assembly, which means that we need we need 19 votes to pass an amendment.
Is someone taking notes? Thank you, Lara.
And then also, if anyone needs to speak up, please use one of these mics, or else whoever's watching online can't hear.
And if you're not able to come up to the mic, just like raise
Yeah.
your hand and yell it, and we'll bring it to you.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay, so proceeding forward.
Let's skip this one. Let's skip it. Next amendment.
Sorry, we are skipping minor bylaws because of time. Minor amendments.
Okay, so the original bylaw is 7.1 composition. The National Executive Committee, NEC, shall be composed of the following. The co-chair, SecGen, Education Officer, Finance Officer, and Solidarity Officer. They are all elected by the General Assembly. The proposed amendment by Anagbayan Ottawa is regarding the composition. So our proposed amendment is that the NEC shall be composed of the following. The SecGen, the Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, Finance, and Propaganda Officer. And they're all elected by the General Assembly, which is us. So, voting in favor of the proposed amendment change, please raise your hand. Does people have questions about the structure? Keep your hands up, please. Thank you for counting, Ryan. Oh, okay, Kyra, speak up. Yeah, okay, sige.
There are no such thing as stupid or dumb questions.
Just wondering, what would the benefits be of changing it to this?
Sorry, what?
What would the benefits be of changing it to this?
That's a good question. As you saw from our interim NEC structure, we actually didn't have these officerships, right? We had a Secretary General, a chair, and one education officer, and the chair was also doing the work of the finance officer. So the proposed amendment is to restructure one to basically reflect what we're already doing, and because we recognize the importance of propaganda at the national level, like it makes more sense for us to be talking about the, like we've talked all about propaganda this whole Congress, right? It makes sense for us to propagate our line publicly and for that to be a national task because education primarily happens in the local chapters.
And also, I think propaganda encompasses education.
Yeah.
Education and propaganda go together. Yeah. So that's the proposed amendment. So, majority? Okay,
wait,
yay!
no.
One amendment has been passed, yay. Next. Okay. Should I continue? Yes. So this is a proposed additional amendment. 7.5 vacancies. Should a vacancy occur, the National Executive Committee the National Council, which is actually the coordinating committee, which is made up of representatives across the country, shall task the NEC to appoint representatives to fill such vacancies. So for example, the interim NEC, Fatima moved on, so we appointed someone. So we're proposing that this is an official amendment, that the NEC elected appoint representatives. And B, appointed representatives shall serve office for the rest of the term, which is until 2024.
So, to clarify, so this is basically what has been happening in practice. So the proposal is just to formalize it in the bylaws. Are there any questions?
If there's no questions, then I suggest we vote.
All in favor?
Okay. Majority. Yay! Isang bagsak! Moving on. Next, please. Next. Skip it.
Oh no.
Next one. Yeah. That's good.
This one is long, but there's actually only one change. I just put it in for context. So basically, the original states that when elections happen, the important one is the last sentence. When consensus is not reached, decisions on major issues shall require the favorable vote of a simple majority, 50% plus one. So the proposal is to change that to 2/3 of the members.
Your chapter.
So that's the proposal.
Questions? Justin.
Yes. So I think it says for major issues, right? What qualifies as a major issue?
That's an excellent question. It's not defined in the bylaws.
I thought this was I'm not clear also. From the first sentence, it's telling us that it's about on decisions of the leading bodies. Actually, no, I'm confused.
So structure, for example.
Major decisions.
Appointment of new positions, right? Never mind. I take it back. Okay. Never mind. Do you propose a new amendment that we write an amendment that clarifies which are major?
Let's take a look if there are definitions.
There's not. Oh, Christine is adding a comment? Oh.
When you're going through the bylaw amendments, can you explain what article, what section,
Yeah.
that we're talking about, so we can have more context behind this amendment?
Good question. Yes.
Follow-up question 2 is, what's the process for reaching consensus, and how do we know we have not reached it?
Fatima? Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, so examples of major issues are, let's say you're taking up a campaign, something urgent happens in the Philippines and you decide, hey, we need to act on this now, but you already have your GPOA. So, what happens post-election, right? Something happens and then there's a call for a campaign. That's one example of a major issue. Another major issue, is like, just things that come up, different topics, different political things that come up. So that's an example of a major issue. Things that would, interact or impact your current GPOA as decided in 2021. Something in 2023 happens and you're like, oh, shoot, what now? Vote.
Thank you. And to clarify, this is Article 5.4, which is under National General Assembly. So these are matters that relate to things that happen during a General Assembly like this. I also I'm sorry it's so confused. This is our second General Assembly ever in history. So, but yeah, so this is 5.4, which is principles and protocols. So this is about organizational principles and protocols of conduct, so how we act with each other, organizationally speaking. It's good to have questions and discussion. So don't worry.
Just reiterating. Yeah, I was going to reiterate just in the second question. How do we reach consensus, and how do we know, or how do we know when we, was it? How do we know if we didn't reach it? Yeah, process of that.
So this is talking specifically about what happens in a General Assembly. So consensus means that every person at the General Assembly agrees. And so if that's not the case, then we have not reached consensus. Lara, can you come up?
For the example of major issues, though, that are made in between General Assemblies or like discussions of GPOA, then there wouldn't be, like, we wouldn't be in a General Assembly to be voting like that on an urgent issue that isn't already present. So would it be like a special meeting is called, or like a special online meeting where we talk about it, or, yeah?
We all have the same question. So I don't think we can answer it right now. I think
Can you give context on why the why the proposal was made to change it from simple majority to 2/3 in the first place?
Yes. So
so that means like you need approval of more people than is what the proposal is saying. You can't just have a simple majority. You need at least 2/3 of the unit or the collective to agree.
This is also just a question in regards to this, or maybe like considering it in the future. I like the question about like even like urgent votes, because when I was like in student government at U of T, we would sometimes have to do like email votes, especially during COVID. So like sending them to all the members and getting consensus that way. Like if you can't meet all together, I think that's a good alternative. So just a suggestion.
That's a good suggestion. In terms of 2/3, I think the idea behind it is that if it's a major issue, more than just slightly above half should be like in consensus, even if we can't all reach consensus, was the principle behind that. I think there's a lot of confusion generally around our this section of the bylaws.
And I think when it was proposed, there wasn't a clear understanding of the original bylaw in the first place. So how should we proceed? Should we just start voting? Are there more comments or questions?
Okay, I think let's vote on it. Let's vote on it.
Yeah.
So what, essentially the bylaw, so our questions.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Huh? Sure. Yeah, let's go for it.
what if we vote on whether we want to vote on it, and if we're not clear enough, we'll skip it?
Yeah. Okay, sige, are we clear or not? If you, hands up if you are not clear on what this amendment is proposing.
And so what that means is we are going to skip this amendment.
when we skip it, that means we're just not passing it, which is basically the same as not voting no. So why don't we just proceed with voting on it? If the amendment is not clear, then vote no for it. If it's not clear and doesn't make sense, then we vote no for it. Does that, Elisa, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just to reiterate, the suggestion was that, or the comment that was made, because if anyone wants to speak like publicly, we should also bring it to the mic so that the audience online can hear. You can also abstain from voting if it's not clear to you.
How do you indicate abstention?
So we vote yes, and then if that's not already a majority, then no and abstain. So you'll raise your hand to abstain.
If this amendment is approved right now, does it start applying right now, and therefore do we need 2/3 to approve the remaining amendments?
Bylaws?
Or is it only for the next time there's amendments?
Okay, that's a good question. Bylaw amendments are not major issues. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's true or not.
Sige, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It applies at the, this would apply at the next assembly, or at the next. Yeah. Sige. More comment. Okay, sige.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just more. So this is just a principle of how we do our work, right? And we're just right now we're trying to figure out objectively speaking, what is a consensus, right? Is it 50% plus one, or is it 2/3? Is it some sort of ideological unity on an issue, or is it something quantitative, like how many people are just yeah, I agree with it? How many? We're also bringing up the idea of how do you show that you're abstaining, or how do you show that you're in favor? I'm not sure if those are in the protocols or in the amendments, how you vote.
Just a brief comment. I think clearly a self-criticism needs to be made of the NEC for not preparing the bylaw amendment section of this GA more thoroughly. I think also it's important for us not to get, it's important for our bylaws to be very clear and for us to be united on them, but also for us not to be bureaucratic about them. This is an active document because it's a representation of our continued organizational work. So, which is why it's important for us to unite on them. AQ?
Doug. I think after reading this over, this is only applying to the NEC because it says the decisions of the leading bodies, except those with the election of the officers. So this is what I'm understanding right now. If it's 2/3 of the NEC voting on something, right? And this is more so towards the leadership. And 2/3 is a pretty sufficient number between this, and I think this is more towards the policy, towards the leaders, as opposed to the entire membership itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. So. Yes. Thank you for the clarification, EQ. That was very clear. Much more clear. Oh, sige. So then the bylaw is in relation to the leading body, which is the National Executive Committee. And so the amendment proposed is that 2/3 of the NEC or National Council, which is representatives of all bodies, on important matters should be 2/3 to move forward, right? So let's continue, yeah? Okay, sige. Voting in favor of the proposed amendment by Sulong UBC. Majority. Isang bagsak! Okay, thank you. Next.
The next amendment, also proposed by Sulong. So the original, so this is the same section, 5.4 Principles and Protocols of Conduct. And so this is a proposal to add an addition to it. So currently in the bylaws, there is no description of the election process for officers. So this is a proposal to add a section which says, in the case of election of officers, a secret ballot will be used. One voting delegate from each member or affiliate chapter will secretly place a vote for each officer under the supervision of the elections committee. A simple majority of the votes will suffice as a favorable vote. Comments, questions?
Why is this a simple majority and not 2/3?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Does anyone want to submit an amendment to change this to 2/3? Because that's allowed.
I will submit an amendment to change a simple majority to 2/3 of the votes.
How are we going to do that? So we'll vote to change the amendment we're voting on, and then vote to change the amendment.
I think we have to vote in this first.
Okay.
I'm just curious, since this is elections and not like pass something or not, what happens if you don't get 2/3?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like this makes more sense to have a majority
Yes.
because it's one or the other.
We're clear on that, right?
theoretically.
Everyone heard what Justin said, claro. Because this is based on elections.
So what Justin said was that because this is elections, if we change this to 2/3, there will be a space between 50% and 2/3, where basically with a simple majority, it's either a yes or a no. But if we don't get 2/3, but I don't know.
It complicates the election process. We have to then determine what will happen if we are in between 1/2 and 2/3 of voting. Yes.
Does that make sense? Are there any other questions or comments?
When we're voting for officers, what happens if we don't reach a simple majority also? Like if it's like 40% and then all the other ones are scattered, or is there not that many officers being nominated?
What do you mean?
Like say we have 5 people nominated for one officer and the majority, like the person who gets the most is under 50%.
So I'll clarify the voting process. When you vote on I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like if there's 5
Yeah.
people and there's 6 chapters and one person gets 2 votes and everyone else gets one vote, that's not 50%, but that's the majority.
Simple majority.
This is the entirety of the process. So.
Yeah.
That's.
Can the Comelec provide comment?
Can the Comelec?
Dito, halika dito.
Sorry, is it not just the person who has the most votes generally, or is that?
Thank you for being patient. Let's continue. Yeah, Kamalek.
Democracy.
Babasa muna. And then clarify the question on the floor. What's the question on the floor?
So I want to clarify that question. So in the previously approved bylaw, it did say except elections. Can you do have that? So can I clarify the question, Marg? So it was if
For example, if there are 5 votes to distribute and one person gets 2 votes, and then there are like 3 others who each get 1 vote each. The person with 2 votes does not have 50% of the votes, but they have the most of all of the candidates.
my assumption is you go through the process again until you reach a simple majority. It's you're working, it's your people's organization, right? Like you're going back and forth. We talk about struggling things out, right? Before, it's not just a matter of voting. You're talking about it. You're coming to a collective discussion on it. So that's part of that, right? If you're identifying that the people you are electing, they're not getting the simple majority or, something like that, you can propose another person, or you can discuss with people to, have them have their say, have them provide their perspective. It works both ways.
That's a good point, Fatima. We're not really talking about bourgeois elections where you don't know who's running, right? Like, we all know each other. You probably know who your chapter will put forward as a candidate. So that's one thing. It is important for us to be clear. It's a good question. But yes, it's a good point that we're not talking about like strangers that we need to put a vote in for.
And on those grounds, does it have to be a secret ballot?
The reason for a secret ballot is to ensure democracy. In the voting process, when you see who each person is voting for, it can be easy to feel pressured to vote for a certain person. So a secret ballot ensures that our democracy is healthy in the voting process.
And as well, we are talking about, there are 7 chapters, which means there will be 7 people voting, which is a lot different from everyone raising their hand here, where you might feel more comfortable not being with the majority if you're like sitting in your seat, Yeah. Yeah, come on up.
It doesn't have to be worked out this time, but were there thoughts of doing ranked ballot system?
What, sorry? Can you clarify?
Grace asked about whether there were thoughts of doing a ranked ballot system. I think that will be a question for the to-be elected NEC to discuss if they decide to propose new bylaws at the next General Assembly, or if urgently needed for an emergency, like at another time.
Just have a minor question for clarification. So who would the elections committee be in this situation? Like, how are they appointed?
Good question. So the NEC cannot be, the current NEC or interim NEC in this situation cannot be the facilitator of the elections for obvious reasons like conflict of interest, etc. So in that situation, we have a COMELEC, or elections committee, which is ideally allied organizations who hold the same principles as a national democratic movement of Anagbayan. So we have like iChirp, we have, MRCC, these are previous YS, which is great, of AB.
Anagbayan graduates.
Anagbayan graduates. Technically, they just need to be someone not part of the national body of the organization.
And what they're doing is facilitating the process of the elections. They don't make any decisions.
Yeah, they just, go ahead.
It's the role of the interim NEC to compose this commission on election.
What Justin has said is it's the role of the NEC to appoint the elections committee.
Is that clear? Is that clear?
Are there any other questions or comments on this amendment? Yeah, can you come up, please?
Hi. Just a simple comment. So instead of saying simple majority, because 50% plus one, the concern a while ago that was raised a while ago, in terms of like, let's say 2 out of 5, and then the rest are one and one. It should be a plurality of votes instead of majority, because when you say plurality, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can win because of the majority of votes, but because of the plurality of votes of the entire body.
Can you clarify what you mean by plurality?
So, okay, just a reference. So, this means that someone who wins the plurality of votes receive more than any of the other candidates, but not necessarily the majority. Let's say the 2 votes over 1 and 1 and 1, because that person got the plurality of votes, but it does not necessarily mean that it's the majority. So I think that's going to be a better way of like voting in terms of, you know,
So, are you, just to clarify, are you proposing an amendment to changing the wording grammatically?
Because that would make more sense, considering that we had concerns a while ago with the example of like 2 versus 1 and 1 and 1.
Thank you for clarifying. That's useful to have that term. I think actually what Fatima was sharing earlier was that as a National Democratic People's Organization, our elected officers should actually represent the majority of our membership. And so if there's a situation where, for example, there are 5 votes and there's 2 and 1 and 1 and 1, we should discuss and struggle it out collectively until we get to a point where our elected officer is agreed upon by at least 50% plus 1 of our membership. So an amendment can certainly be submitted to change it, but I think we have discussed here that simple majority is more representative. Yeah.
Can I make a proposed amendment to include that clause of this, we're going to struggle it out in a more formal way till we reach that simple majority, just to make this more clear about what would happen if we don't reach a simple majority?
Yes, I will draft an amendment to that effect, but that will be a separate amendment. Are there any other comments or questions on this amendment?
All right, okay, so based on this amendment, please vote. Aye. Yes, come.
Are we voting on this amendment or Jeff's amendment to, when do we vote on the amendment to change the simple majority to 2/3?
That has not been formally submitted. We're voting on this amendment.
Just this one for the secret ballot.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We are, the vote that Jeff said about 2/3 is being canceled. So we're voting upon this amendment proposed by Silong UBC. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, majority. Isang bagsak! Salamat. ISA is drafting the proposed amendment to clarify what will happen in the situation that simple majority is not achieved upon election of appointment. So it'll take 1 second. And just to clarify, this is going to be the last amendment, and then we'll move over to the official elections of the new National Executive Committee. So, yeah.
So I've worded it as follows. So this would be an addition 5.4E. In the case where a simple majority is not achieved by a candidate, the collective in the General Assembly will discuss and struggle through the decision until an officer is elected with a simple majority. Any comments or questions?
If there's no comment or question regarding the wording of this, please vote on the amendment. Those in favor, please raise your hand. majority. Isang bagsak. Okay, sige.
We have amended the bylaws.
Woo! Yeah! Okay. Yes, elections. I now invite the appointed COMELEC to come facilitate. Please and thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, I have to introduce them. Okay, so,
I'm good. Actually, no computers.
okay, just sit down first.
For reference. Hello.
You're gonna introduce yourself? Or, yeah? Okay, you do it yourself.
Hi, I'm Fatima. Hello. She, her pronouns. Former chairperson of Anagbayan Toronto. Also former interim national education officer for Anagbayan Canada. Yeah. And I'm not a member of Anagbayan, hence I'm here.
Hi everyone, Justin Reyes, he, him. I was a member of Anagbayan Toronto as a Secretary General from 2012 to 2015.
Hi everybody, my name is Christine Castaños. I'm the Sec-Gen of iChirp Canada, and I was a member of Anagbayan Ottawa up until last January.
Okay, so we are here to facilitate your elections as now indicated in your approved bylaws. So the point of this election is that you're going to be electing a national executive committee to fulfill the items in your general program of action in between Congresses, right? So within Anagbayan, your highest decision-making body is this assembly right here. But when that assembly does not meet, it's not possible to convene all 149 members of Anagbayan Canada every month, right? So that's the function of your executive committee. So we'll go through the different mechanics. We identified a secret ballot, or you folks have identified a secret ballot. So we have Christine here, who's gonna give you respective ballots. But actually first, before we do that, we're gonna request one voting delegate per chapter. So actually I'll go through everything and then we'll go through the whole process itself. So there will be one voting delegate per chapter. You folks will be broken up into your respective caucuses of your chapter to identify voting delegates who you'd like to vote for and whatnot.
Before you guys start talking, let's listen to Fatima explain the whole process so you know what we're expecting. So please pay attention.
Thanks. Then we're gonna do a roll call of all the delegates, and then we're gonna ask voting delegates to come to the front. There are two conveniently empty rows in front of us, so you can sit up here. And then we'll go through the different roles of voting. So I'll let it go to Jessa now to go through the different roles.
You have it there?
Yes.
On your phone?
Not by word, it's just title.
Oh, can we, Rosie or someone, can we please have the roles, maybe on the...
Can we project the roles?
Yeah. You want to do a roll call? A roll call of the delegates now?
Unless, do chapters have identified their voting delegate already? If not, that would be in their caucus. Okay, caucus. Yeah. But before you break out into your caucuses, we'll go through the roles and what they entail.
I think Fatima.
Which computer? This one? Wasn't it done in the...
Or I can just read it.
So they can see.
Was it not in the GPOA that was just made? Someone please correct me. Okay, where do I find the GPOA? Miguel? Thanks. Yeah, because your GPOA just listed already what were the functions of each of the officers.
No, it's in their bylaws. Bylaws.
Or you could pull up your bylaws.
Yeah, it's in the bylaws.
Just give me 1 second. Are they changed? Bylaws? Okay, bylaws are coming up. Please enjoy reading.
Okay, I want to stand. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just. Can you go to the roles? The roles? Yeah. Yeah, just the roles. Ayan. Ayan. Okay. Mga kasama, let's move forward. I think for most of you, you probably have a general idea of the roles of the positions that we would like to fill, but just as a review, especially if this is your first time, I'm trying to just think back. The last time we elected a national NEC in Anagbayan, Canada, was where it was deliberated at a Congress was actually in 2016. So it's been a while, no? Because the previous was an interim NEC, so this is exciting, right? So, a quick review for chair and vice chair person. The duties and responsibilities are A, shall be the main convener of the General Assembly, the National Council, and the NEC. As such, co-chair shall preside over all the meetings of the National Assembly, National Council, and NEC committee. Shall represent Anakbayan Canada in external relations or public affairs, shall act as a campaign and prop officer, and shall spearhead national tactical and strategic alliance work with other political groups, alliances, association, and organization. D, shall regularly report to the National Council and the NEC, the National Executive Committee. E, shall regularly report to Anagbayan Philippines on the activities of the national chapter and the delegate appropriate lines of communications as needed. And F, shall carry out responsibilities directed by the National Council. So very important role. Usually our chair and the vice chair is who sets the tone, right? Who reminds us of our general program of action throughout the term. For Secretary General, the duties and responsibilities shall be responsible for the day-to-day implementation of the program, projects, and tasks and decisions of the General Assembly, National Council, and the NEC. Shall be responsible for membership in coordinating with the organizational affairs of Anagbayan Canada to the chapters and affiliates, and as such, section shall develop plans for recruitment and retainment of members in chapters and affiliates, chapter building and recruitment affiliates for expansion of Anagbayan Canada, oversee all internal communications and correspondence of Anagbayan Canada, shall represent the NEC of AB Canada in activities and functions of the chapters and members affiliates, shall also represent Anagbayan Canada in activities, conference, and community endeavors outside of Anagbayan Canada, and lastly, shall carry out other responsibilities as directed by the National Council and or the General Assembly. Usually our SecGen is who does most of the internal work, right? Internal within the organization, but also areas where we would like to expand. So earlier there was a lot of conversation about expanding possibly in the Atlantic region, right? So this is something that Secretary General would be looking into. For Finance Officer, A, shall be responsible for generating and mobilizing resources, especially for finances, for AB Canada's activity and needs, shall collect and central annual membership dues, shall act as a custodian of all funds, financial records, and properties of AB Canada, shall propose an annual budgets of Anagbayan Canada for approval of the NEC, National Council, and the General Assembly whenever such bodies would meet and need it. Such budget will be based on approved programs, projects, and activities, and shall include income sources expected and expected expenditures. E, shall submit the financial report to the NEC, National Council, and General Assembly
Finance officers shall also submit timely updates on the financial status of the NEC and the National Council, shall recommend Anagbayan Canada National Executive Committee, National Council on General Assembly and policies and guidelines on finance, including fundraising, strategies, and disbursement of procedures. G, shall conduct regular assessments of financial status of AB Canada, shall create the Finance Committee whenever applicable and needed, and shall carry out the responsibilities as directed by the National Council and the National General Assembly. For Prop Officer, shall be responsible for developing and promoting and strengthening political education in Anagbayan Canada, shall create the Propaganda Committee and train pool of Propaganda Committee members to fulfill program and tasks, shall ensure that propaganda is distributed promptly, and shall coordinate with their counterpart in Anagbayan Philippines and other overseas chapters of Anagbayan in sharing and developing educational materials, and shall carry out the responsibility as directed by the National Council and the General Assembly. That's it, no? So these are the positions that we are electing for today. So we have Finance Officer, Propaganda Officer, the Secretary General, the Vice Chairperson, and the Chairperson. So we have 5. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay.
So now we're going to request that your chapters break out, take 10 minutes to discuss, well, 1, your voting delegate, and 2, who you would like to vote for. You are not limited to your chapter. This is the... Sorry, nominate. Sorry, nominate. Who you would like to nominate for each of these positions. Thank you, Rosie. So feel free. Wait, before you all break out and such. Yeah, you can nominate folks from other chapters. This is Anagbayan Canada, right? Do I have any questions before we proceed? Lara, microphone, please. Mic, please.
Just line up at the mic.
If you have questions, line up at the mic.
Question on whether each caucus needs to nominate for each position, or can they only nominate, say, one person for one position?
You can nominate for as many positions as you feel necessary.
Or as few. Okay.
Or as few. But we're talking about this process, right? Make it a rich process.
Maybe I think this question might come up, so I'm just going to bring it up anyways. Supposedly you're not familiar with other chapters and the members on, like, especially their EC and they're working. How would you go about nominations, like in each position?
Well, that's where it becomes a collective discussion, right?
Okay.
So you folks have been getting to know each other throughout the last year. You've gotten to know each other here. You've seen everyone take up different leadership roles, whether it's in coordination of the program, whether it's in logistics, whether it's speaking at the rallies. You already have a rough sense of who could be voted for these roles. So I leave it to the caucuses of the chapters to identify that collectively.
Yeah. Very quickly, when you nominate a kasama, usually the kasama has to first accept the nomination. Actually, before that, the member who's nominating shall provide just a brief reason why they're nominating this person, and this person then has to either accept or say or reject it, right? So in that sense, you'll also get a sense why this person is being nominated.
Yeah.
Before a kasama accepts the nomination, do we need a second for the nomination?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And the vote, it'll be done among the voting delegates.
So just to clarify,
no, sorry.
Seconder?
Seconder can be
not
anyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, secondary?
Seconder to second the nomination.
To second the nomination.
To provide us.
Okay.
To affirm someone's nomination.
Okay, when someone is nominated, will that be done up here on stage or in the caucuses?
So we will have you break out into your caucuses, identify who's going to be nominated, and then we'll all return together. Voting delegates will stay up here, and then we'll go through each of the positions from the last one to, so from prop officer to chairperson, and we'll go each position. So we'll open the floor for prop officer nominations. You state your nominations. We go through the voting process of a secret ballot. It closes, someone's voted in, and then we proceed with the next officer.
So to clarify, it is the voting delegates who are also nominating.
Anyone can nominate.
Anyone can nominate, but I mean, you're discussing it in the caucuses beforehand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but anyone's eligible to technically, but is it like convention that the voting delegate also nominates?
No.
Doesn't matter.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No.
Anyone
Okay,
can
thank you.
But yes, discuss it in your chapters. It's for the vote itself. Okay, are we good? Questions answered? Okay, you have 10 minutes. Go caucus.
When they're nominating, they'll just like
Hello? Don't forget to choose your voting delegates. Time is up in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2.
I know, this is true. This is true. Oh my god. It was so nice. Oh my god, it was so funny. Wait, where did
One minute. Can we have all the voting delegates come to the front, please? Voting delegate? Okay. Can we reserve the first 2 rows for voting delegates? I'm sorry, people who just sat down. Thank you. There should be 6 available chairs for voting delegates.
If they ask for the roles, we'll just read it.
Yeah.
We'll read it. Tell them we can't.
Yeah.
Just be like, we'll read it.
Yeah. Or I'll state the position with the roles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
It's not 30.
Which clap? If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, make a unicorn. Okay. Huh? All right, voting delegates to the front, please. We are about to begin your election process for your National Executive Council. Yeah, that's the enthusiasm. Okay, voting delegates up front. I see 5 people. I'm missing 1 person. All right, get up here. Wait, I'm missing 1 more person. There's supposed to be 6. We got BC, Ottawa, Alberta. Oh, sorry, might be. I thought you were all in a row. Okay, great. Into the mic, please.
Mic test. Mic.
It's on now.
Oh, it's on.
Hello? Isang bagsak! Hi, everybody. I'm Marg. I am the Secretary General of Anagbayan Toronto, and I'm the voting delegate for Anagbayan Toronto.
Can you make sure the light is flashing?
Okay, you can proceed.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Gabby. I'm a new member of Anagbayan Montreal.
Woo!
Hello, hello. Lila from Montreal. Sorry, Anagbayan, Alberta.
Hi everyone, I'm Casey. I am the propaganda officer of Anagbayan, Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Miguel from Anagbayan, BC.
pronouns are they, she, and I'm a general member of Sulong UBC, and I'm also the voting delegate for Sulong UBC.
Okay. We have some tech difficulties right now, but that's okay. I will read stuff to you. We have Christine here from the Commonwealth handing each of the people a ballot, and I think they are also missing pens. Christine! Pens, anyway, pens. We will start off with we'll go from propaganda officer to finance officer, secretary general, vice chairperson, and then finish off with your new chairperson. So we'll start elections for the propaganda officer. Since we don't have the screen going, I will read the duties and responsibilities quickly. So the propaganda officer shall be responsible for developing, promoting, and strengthening political education in AB Canada. They shall create the propaganda committee and train a pool of propaganda committee members to fulfill program and tasks. They shall ensure that propaganda is distributed promptly. They shall coordinate with their counterpart in AB Philippines and other overseas chapters of Anagbayan in sharing and developing educational materials. And as all members, carry out responsibilities as directed by the National Council and General Assembly. Sure. Okay, so now accepting nominations for the propaganda officer. Also, the COMELEC will also take votes or notes. Okay, we need.
Old school.
Wait, no, that's enough ballots for everyone. Can we have a piece of paper up here? We're gonna old school write out votes. No, but that's enough ballots. I cut up enough ballots. Paper, someone? Okay, while it's being written down, we are now opening the floor for nominations for propaganda officer. Please come to the front, the microphone. If you have anything you want to say out loud and you want me to hear it, I can only hear through this microphone.
Sorry, clarifying question. Are we nominating for every position and then voting for every position? Or are we nominating for one position, then voting on that position, and so on?
Nominating.
One at a time, because it...
So we will nominate. Folks will accept the nominations and whatnot. Then it will go to a vote by the voting delegates. And then the person will be elected, and then we'll proceed with the next nomination for the next position. Clear?
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
What if the same person is nominated for multiple positions? So for, like, let's say one chapter, right? One chapter wants this person to be prop officer, they're voted in as prop officer, and then they're the only nominee for finance or something like that. This is why I was wondering whether it might be better to go through all of them at once, but it is up to the COMELEC.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring that up.
COMELEC. Yeah. They can abstain from the position. Also, people have the right, if they have another position in mind, can deny one position, and then I'm assuming too, I don't know, people maybe know what they might be voted for. Things aren't a surprise. Yeah. I don't, okay, hope that's an answer. Okay.
In that instance, that person that is nominated, just say that you abstain from that position.
Yeah. Like ideally, you're not catching people off surprise too, right? You know, people have a sense that you're gonna approach them and whatnot. So that is how we hope the democratic process plays out. Okay, can we start? Propaganda officer, nomination floor is open. Is that a question or a nomination? Can you come to the mic if you have a nomination?
Sorry, thank you. Just line up at the mic.
Please.
Don't put your hands up, just come up here.
Can come from anybody. Okay. Please come to the mic if you have a nomination.
Prop, right?
Yes.
I would like to nominate Miguel from Anagbayan, BC for propaganda officer.
And please also state your reason. Please state your reason.
Apologies. I, of course, because as a member of Sulong, work closely with Miguel. Miguel has made amazing propaganda, as we saw that film, But more than just technical skill or artistic creativity, Miguel has a clear grasp of how propaganda is for the people, and I think would contribute ideologically and also like organizationally, like just coordinating and making sure statements get done on time and that kind of thing. And so I've seen through their work in Anagbayan, BC, that Miguel has all of these skills and so would make a good prop officer.
Okay, thank you, Isa. Do we have a seconder? It can be anyone. Are you seconding? No, you're seconding? Okay, you're No.
Okay, I second the nomination.
Seconded by Marg. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. No, it has to be, you have to second the nomination and then Miguel has to accept. Do you accept the nomination? Miguel accepts for people online listening. Okay, do we have any other nominations for propaganda officer? Okay, don't rush to the mic, y'all. Okay. So, 3, 2, 1. Okay, the position is acclaimed to Miguel. Isang bagsak for Miguel. Isang bagsak. Okay, next, finance officer. I lied, we're not projecting the roles. I'm just going to read it. Oh, Miguel, do you want to? Come up. Oh, just stay up here. We're asking you to say some nice, accepting words.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's an honor, honestly, and I think our country and all of the chapters within our country have a very particular attraction and interest to cultural work and to the arts, and I really hope that all of you can help ground me and all of us collectively in our work to propagate our correct political line and pursue promoting the national democratic movement together in everything that we do, and spreading it further and stronger and unified.
Great.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. So, our original idea is that you sit up here, but you are also voting delegate, so can you please go back to your seat?
Yeah, I was like,
my bad. I don't know. Do you have a question? Casey? You have a question?
Can I suggest that we go through all the elections first and then have the elected positions say something after all the elections?
Yeah, sorry, that might be. I forgot. I got excited. Y'all got a prop officer. Okay, we'll proceed. Finance officer, duties and responsibilities shall be responsible in generating and mobilizing resources, especially finances, for AB Canada's activities and needs. They shall collect and centralize annual membership dues. They shall act as the custodian of all funds, financial records, and properties of AB Canada, and they shall propose annual budgets of AB Canada for approval by the NEC, National Council, and the General Assembly, wherever such bodies meet and need it. Such budget will be based on approved programs and projects and activities, and shall include income sources and expected expenditures. Okay, the floor is now open for nominations for finance officer. Please come to the microphone.
Hello, again. I would like to put forth a nomination for Rosie from ABTO for finance officer. Rosie is the current chairperson of ABTO, and we don't have a finance officer, so that role falls on the entire EC, but Rosie especially takes the lead on that, and through their guidance, we've achieved so many grants as ABTO. And outside of organizing, Rosie also works in the nonprofit, so they have a good understanding of how to leverage those kinds of allyships to gain financial support for the work we do. But aside from just that, Rosie has a very clear understanding of our political objectives and how to garner political support for the movement, because as we've talked about, finance and fundraising isn't just about money and funding the things we do. It's about people showing their political support to us through their dollars as well. And I think Rosie has a really good picture of how that works, and they would make a great finance officer.
Okay. Nomination for Rosie. Do we have a seconder? Miguel seconds. always a race to be the seconder. Okay, do we have any other nominations for finance officer? Oh, sorry, my bad. Rosie, do you accept? Sorry, didn't mean to scream. Rosie. Okay, Rosie accepts the nomination. Maybe. Okay. Any other nominations for finance officer? Don't be shy. Okay. I know we should put the Jeopardy song. Oh, we were trying to play the Jeopardy song earlier. We couldn't get the sound to work. Anyway, if no other nominations, the position is acclaimed. Congrats, Rosie. Okay, we will ask you to sit here later. We'll proceed. Okay, next, Secretary General. Oh yeah, Isang Bagsak for Rosie. Okay, Secretary General, SecGen. Duties and responsibilities shall be responsible for the day-to-day implementation of programs, projects, tasks, and decisions of the GA, National Council, and National Executive Committee. They shall be responsible for membership and in coordinating organizational affairs of AB Canada to the chapter and its affiliates. As such, the SecGen shall develop plans for the recruitment and retainment of members in chapters and affiliates. They shall facilitate chapter building and recruiting affiliates for the expansion of AB Canada. And they shall oversee all internal communication and correspondence of AB Canada. And as all exec people, represent the NEC of AB Canada in activities and functions of chapter members. Oh, and they should also represent AB Canada in activities, conferences, and community endeavors outside of AB Canada, and shall carry out responsibilities as directed by National Council and GA. TLDR. Okay, SecGen! Nominations are now open.
I would like to my name is Laurel, and I would like to nominate Isa of Sulong UBC for SecGen because I think that they have shown the necessary leadership skills for SecGen. They're also very well spoken and has a very good understanding of the political objectives. So everything that Anagbayan stands for, and I believe that Isa will really represent as well.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Lara is first. Okay, Lara, seconded by Lara. Okay, do we have any other nominations for Secretary General? Oh, sorry, Isa, my bad, I'm sorry, I got too excited. I'm too excited. Okay, Isa, do you accept the nomination? Isa accepts the nomination. Wait, no, sorry, we're all too excited, it's okay. Okay, any other nominations for Secretary General of Anagbayan Canada? Okay, so if that is the case, the position is now acclaimed. Congrats to Isa, Secretary General of Anagbayan Canada, Isang Bagsak. Okay, the next penultimate role is the Vice Chairperson. I'm gonna just read this once and then I'm not gonna read it for the chair. Okay, your chair and your Vice Chairperson. The duties and responsibilities include being the main convener of the GA, the National Council, and the NEC. As such, a chair presides over all meetings of the National Assembly, National Council, and National Executive Committee. They shall represent Anagbayan Canada in external relations or public affairs. They shall act as a campaign and propaganda officer and spearhead national, tactical, and strategic alliance work with other political groups, alliances, associations, and organizations. They shall regularly report to the National Council and the NEC. They shall regularly report to AB Philippines on the activities of the national chapter and delegate appropriate lines of communication as needed, and also carry out other responsibilities as directed by the National Council. Okay, so your Vice Chairperson, we are now opening the floor for nominations for your Vice Chairperson. Don't all come at once.
Hi, I'm Casey, and I would like to nominate Alisa from AB Ottawa as Vice Chair.
And please state your reason.
Alisa has already been acting as our chair for AB Ottawa, and Also, with her involvement in other Filipino organizations, I believe that she'll fit this role very well. She's involved with Filipino Youth Fellowship, FICARS, which is Filipinos in Canada, Scholars and Researchers.
Okay, so do we have a seconder? Charlie seconded. You gotta be speedy. Okay, I got this. Do you accept the nomination, Elisa? Accepted! Nomination accepted! Do we have any other nominations for Vice Chairperson? Ooh, democracy!
This is good!
Spicy!
So this one's from Kyra. They had to leave for the airport, so they sent a message. But they are nominating Aliana from AB Alberta. And their reasoning is that in the short time we were discussing with them in small groups, there was fire in their voice, and they were so articulate and comfortable in sharing their knowledge. Having lived in the Philippines under the Duterte regime up until 2 years ago, they know firsthand the necessity of our youth organizing here abroad. In their words, quote, "We need to stand up for the people who cannot," end quote. Think this would be such a good opportunity for them to grow ideologically. Heart emoji.
Ooh, okay. Do we have a seconder? Grace seconds. Sorry, Lisa, I didn't see you. Okay.
Do they accept?
Yes, got that. Do you accept, Aliana? Can you come, or you can, I'll just repeat it. Okay, so Aliana does not accept the nomination. Do we have any other nominations for Vice Chairperson? Okay, so the position is now acclaimed. Congrats to Elisa! Isan, bucks up for Elisa! Isan, bucks, okay. Might be. Okay, Chairperson! Okay, the floor is open to nominate. You can line up.
Hello again, it's me. On behalf of ABTO, we'd like to put forward Micah as our nominee for chairperson. I might get emotional, sorry. Micah has been the propaganda officer for Anagbayan Toronto, and under her leadership, we've grown an array of propagandists for our chapter, and I've watched Micah lead them in a very clear political line, and our prop over the last program period has become more agit, it's become more creative, and outside of Micah's role in leading our propagandists to build up our roster of propaganda, Micah is also a shining example of what solid organizing looks like. And Micah is, sorry, I get emotional. A shining example of what solid organizing looks like, and she's constantly building new relationships with not just our new members within our chapter, but with other Filipinos in the community, in different organizations, during outreach, during different programs, not just like-minded Filipinos. Like, she's out there in the masa, talking to everyone, really integrating herself. And I think with the goal of the GPOA in the coming program period to really build up the character of AB Canada to be more of the toiling masses, I think Micah is a great example of how we can start to build that relationship and build outward that way and expand. Did I miss anything?
Okay, I know, I just want to hype you up. Okay, after that very heartfelt message, do we have a seconder? Cheryl, sorry y'all, Anagbayan Toronto, seconder. Okay, so Cheryl. Okay, Micah, do you accept the nomination? Micah accepts! Do we have any other nominations for chairperson? Why are y'all pointing? What's up?
We, Salon UBC, would like to nominate Alquin for chairperson. Okay. Why does that solicit so much laughter? Okay, well, let Sulong UBC and Grace state their reasons. Wait. Can you state your reasons, please? And the reason, Alquin has a lot of experience with organizing. We see him at the events all the time, and we believe that he'll be an excellent person for this position.
Okay. Alquin! Do we have a seconder? Micah seconds! Okay. Good. I dig this collective spirit. Okay. Alquin, do you accept the nomination? I know, I see you walking. I'm just stating it to the audience in the video.
I'm very honored I was considered and nominated. The reason why I'm going to decline is that, okay, I'm going to bring up like I think Micah is more fit just from working side by side with her. And it'd be good to have someone who has a good understanding of the youth issues. Like she could relate to them a lot better, and you know her organizing is on point. I will serve the people in different ways, and I will contribute in many different ways. But I think as chair, I would like to politely decline that. But I appreciate that.
All right. Alquin declines. Do we have any other nominations for chairperson? Wait. Okay, any other nominations? Going once, going twice. The position is acclaimed to Micah! Can we give an isang bagsak to Micah? Isang bagsak! Micah, come on! We invite now everyone from the NEC to come up. And I'd like to thank all the delegates for your involvement. And I think this is a great example of the democratic process, especially the part in which we're talking about it collectively, right? Despite being in different cities, despite only seeing each other maybe on Zoom meetings every once in a while, or in person maybe once every few months or years, you know, we still have this collective unity that bonds us, that bonds you all as people who are, you know, the youth of the nation, as Anagbayan members. So this is a great example of the democratic process. And now, get your cameras ready. Can we have everyone stand up? And, okay, wait, can we take out the computer? Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna stage mom. Can we move this tape? And can we move that mic stand? And the laptop. And the cup. Thank you. And the cup. Take the cup out of the photo. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Wait, can we put up the projector screen too? Because we got the nice Anagbayan. Can we put up the projector screen so we can see the mural? Okay. Yeah, it's off already. All right, okay, get your cameras ready. Get ready. You know you want to. Yeah, we also need Rosie. Hold on, we need to move the mural though. Okay. Everyone, please welcome your new National Executive Council for 2022 or 2021 to 2024. Mabuhay! All right, so now we're going to invite you all to just say a few words of thanks. Miguel, you know what you did, but you can still offer. Okay, you can not. Okay, Rosie, you may proceed with your words. Thanks.
Okay. I'm very honored to be nominated for the position of Finance Officer of Anagbayan Canada. Our finance work, just as Marg said, works step in step, hand in hand with our political work. Our finance work isn't just about raising funds for our operational expenses. It's about gathering material and political support for the national democratic movement of the Philippines. So during my time as finance officer, I will fulfill my duties that are expected of me. And in particular, I want to create a campaign plan for us to contribute funds to Anagbayan chapters in the Philippines. We know that Anagbayan Philippines has many full-time organizers. We know that they live in collective houses. Sometimes their electricity and water and internet gets cut off because they can't pay for the bills. It's important that us, as Anagbayan chapters overseas, support our kasamas back home. Thank you.
I'm honored to have been elected as the Secretary General of Anagbayan. Marg started crying, and that set me off. Anagbayan has been my home since I joined in early 2019 when I joined Anagbayan Toronto, and since the beginning of 2020 when I joined Sulong UBC when I moved, and the reason it changed my life is not because it is because of the individual friendships that I've built, but it's also because of our comradely approach to collective life, because of criticism, self-criticism, because of the strength of our ideological and political line. I believe in our movement, I believe in national democracy, and I believe in the people's revolution. And as Secretary General, I'm honored to take part in this movement in a new way, in a new capacity, and to work alongside such amazing, such skilled, such comradely, and such dedicated and committed kasamas who are here for the movement and who are here to serve the people. Salamat.
I don't know how to follow that up. Both of them. I am also deeply honored and humbled to have been elected, and I was honored to be elected chairperson of Anagbayan Ottawa last year. Forever thank you, Jackie, for introducing me to Christine and Nicole. And this year has been one of the hardest in my life, and I hate crying. And I wouldn't have gotten through it without my kasamas in Ottawa and across Canada. So everything I wanted to bring to the past year, I am dedicated to bringing forward to the next 2 years. All of my love and anger, constructive anger, and compassion, I promise you I will bring forward. I live every day with the intention of being an Eskolarang Bayan, and I hope I do you all proud, so thank you.
I don't think I have the words right now to speak in front of you because I'm still like overwhelmed. But I'm deeply grateful and I'm so honored to be here. After all these wonderful speeches, I feel pressured. I guess I'm just gonna share my personal struggle. Ever since I moved here in 2019, I've always wanted to be part of the movement. But moving here, I had more like liberty to be with the people. My parents aren't really supportive of my activism because of the usual like narratives that they hear. And as a chairperson of Anagbayan Canada, I accepted this nomination because I know that I got all the inspiration from my kasamas, and I do not want to do a disservice since I still don't have the words, honestly. But I am here and I want to promise that I will take everything in me to be those things that you've said earlier during the nomination. And yeah, that's my speech.
Now that we have reached the end of the elections process, we are going to have a quick vote on where we should host the next General Assembly. Are there any suggestions for what city would like to host the next GA in 2024? Vancouver has been put on the floor. Alberta has been put on the floor. Where in that's a province. Edmonton? Are we serious about Red Deer? I was like, I don't know if they have an airport. What? Edmonton? Montreal. So we have Vancouver, Edmonton, and Montreal on the floor. And Winnipeg. Winnipeg was a joke. Okay, how do we... okay, how should we facilitate? Let's sort of go by a show of hands, but hopefully eventually end up at consensus. Okay, yeah, let's tally. Can I recall someone to count hands? Ryan, thank you. Please take a bow. Okay. Yeah. The question has been asked, can we vote for more than one city? No. No. Hard no. Okay, so again, the cities in question are Vancouver, Edmonton, and Montreal. Votes for Vancouver. How many?
Keep your hands up.
You need to keep your hand up. If you are voting, it's a yes or no. Okay, 2 votes.
No, it's 3.
3. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, there are 5. Sorry, I'll stop counting. Brian confirms that it's 5. Next, Edmonton.
Can I just explain Edmonton and the prairies?
As mass activists, we must consider where the largest majority of Filipinos are across the country, diba? Yes, Vancouver is there, but we are trying to build momentum within the prairies because there's so many migrant workers there. There's so many Filipino youth there. Diba yon? Diba? Don't vote just because you want to travel, ha? Just basta. O sige.
Okay. Thank you for this context, Nicole. Let's vote, place our votes for Edmonton. Oh.
Something like 22.
What?
About 22.
22. Votes for Montreal. That is not the majority. Our next General Assembly and National Congress in the year 2024 will be in Edmonton, Alberta! Isang Bagsak! Woo! Is there other business? Can we do the pledge? Can we project it?
To close, we would like to do the Anagbayan Pledge.
Wait. I don't think we really have time. Let's just get it up.
We'll just read it. Yeah. We cannot project it.
We'll just read it. So we'll read it out. I invite you, if you have access to it on your phone or on a device, to find the Anagbayan Pledge. Yes, of course. I just need to make sure I find it. Yeah, can we get the AB Canada flag up, please? Thanks. All right.
Can everyone please stand up for the pledge?
Here, you can just use this. So it's the pledge. Yes.
So maybe we can do like
all the same time or different sections?
I think maybe you say a line and then people repeat after you. But you have to say short parts because they can't
the
read
sentences
it.
are long. Yeah. So can you do that? Sure. Or as our chair. This one? So our chairperson, Micah, will read parts of the pledge and will repeat. So Micah will read like part of it and then we will repeat after Micah. Left fist.
I, Micah J. Malin, wholeheartedly declare my readiness to enthusiastically arouse, organize and mobilize the youth for their democratic interests, and to my family firmly integrate it with the national democratic aims and struggle of the entire people. I stand by and embrace the Constitution. Principles and cause of Anagbayan. I pledge to implement its overall tasks and programs. At all times. I will uphold all the decisions and policies. Of the National Congress. and all the higher organs and collectives that I belong to. I will forge myself into an activist for the masses. I will resolutely study Philippine society. I will uphold simple living and arduous struggle. I pledge to uphold the revolutionary tradition of the Filipino youth. I will continue the unfinished struggle for national liberation and democracy. I will be loyal, enthusiastic, and arduously serve the interests of the youth. And arduously serve and the people. Even if it means offering my life.
Lumalawan!
Anagbayan!
Our General Assembly has concluded. Woo!
Yeah.
You got it?